This is episode 68 of the Battle of Ohio podcast. The Bengals and Browns both went down this weekend in what we called on the last episode, prove it games. Said, I'd argue both teams played well enough to feel like they could probably win that game again later in the season. In the Browns case, they might meet the Chargers in the playoffs. In the Bengals case, we got some other big games coming up later in the season. Maybe I don't think we'll see the Packers in the Super Bowl, but you never know. You never know. At the end of the day, they came really close in a big game, and you feel like maybe they can do it next time. Also, somehow, both teams had players go to the hospital after their game with a throat contusion. But that was weird. I've never heard of that happening before, and then it happens to both of our teams after the same game. But it sounds like both Joe Burrow and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah are both fine, and they're both going to be perfectly healthy for the next games. So it's not a big deal. They're not expected to miss any time. It's all good. If y'all haven't noticed yet, because I forget we're now on StreamYard, and so you see everybody's videos now. So y'all can see we got John Sheeran on the show today from the Orange and Black Insider podcast from Cincy Jungle. I believe you help out Daddy-O McDuke on his podcast, whatever platform he's ever on. Now on Believe, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So he wrote a really good article kind of breaking down a lot of people's ire towards Zac Taylor on Cincy Jungle. And I will actually be linking that article down in the description if y'all want to go read it, because it's really, really concise. And I actually agree with almost every single point on there.
Okay.
So, finally, Pittsburgh almost let the fake-ass Broncos come back and beat them. Because why, Thomas?
Because Pittsburgh, the city of Pittsburgh, them ugly-ass cows, they still suck. You suck, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's right.
I try to be creative with it every once in a while. I try to mix it up. It's a satisfying feeling, John. Like, you just like twice a week, you just come on a podcast. You just go like, you suck, Pittsburgh.
Welcome to the Battle of Ohio podcast, where we follow the revival of the historic rivalry between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
What you're drinking today, Thomas?
So today I'm drinking two things. First of all, I feel like an old man after watching that football game, after the Browns game, the Bengals game, all that drama. I feel like an old man, all the missed extra kicks and then all that drama with those refs. I feel like an old man. So I decided to buy me a Michelob Ultra. Good old Michelob.
I've never heard of anybody under the age of 50 drinking a Michelob Ultra.
Y'all remember the 60s?
No, I don't.
I'm also drinking some Red Bull because I need some energy. So I'm going like completely into the spectrum. I'm going old man vibe, and then I'm going like middle-aged dad with ED vibe. So I'm going both vibes.
All right then. What about you, John? What do you got today?
I've got a regular old Sam Adams Oktoberfest. Is the only beer in my fridge at the moment, but fits the season, fits the occasion.
It makes sense. I had Sam Adams Oktoberfest on for like 6 episodes in a row because of the same reason. It was the only thing I had in my fridge. So we just partied on Oktoberfest for a while. I'm drinking a Kona Brewing Company. Well, there's my camera. Longboard Island Lager. Just because I associate it with relaxing, and I am so relaxed, way more relaxed than you really should be after a big-time loss because the Ravens are losing. Well, actually, I think they're losing.
They are losing. I don't know what's going on with the Ravens.
Well, the Ravens are losing, and the Browns lost. So the Bengals are still on their way to still being in first place, and I'll take that.
Yeah, I'll take it too.
I'll take it too.
Well, it's better than being behind, I suppose.
Well, at least the Steelers are in last place.
Yeah, the Steelers be in last place no matter what happens because they still suck.
I can't wait to beat them on Halloween. That's gonna be fun.
So, starting off, the Bengals lost 25-22 to the Green Bay Packers. It was a thrilling back-and-forth contest that ended up being way more defensive than I think a lot of people anticipated. A lot of Bengals fans are upset because they were hoping that we'd, finally get the offense going, score 30+, and also the defense held the Packers under 30. So it feels like a wasted opportunity, especially considering all those missed field goals. In particular, Evan McPherson missed a field goal with 26 seconds left in regulation that would have won the game, just flat out. And then he missed another one. The first one was 57 yards. So, you can almost say that that's kind of excused. But he did make a 57-yarder in the preseason. But, supposedly there was wind and stuff. And he denied that the wind had anything to do with it. But Mason Crosby said it did. And, he's the veteran. But the other one was 49 yards. And he even thought he made it. So it's just kind of like, what did you think about that game, John?
It's too crazy to utilize traditional conventional analysis, I think, because that's never happened before. Never have we seen 5 consecutive missed kicks, 2 from one side, 3 from the other side in the fourth quarter in overtime. I am team anti-ties. I despise ties in professional sports, but it really did feel like both teams deserved that tie because neither team wanted to win just make the field goal, just make it, and they didn't.
I'm not gonna lie. I was rooting for the tie, by the third field goal. I was like, let's tie. This is. You're right.
Both teams deserved it. It was so fitting.
It happen.
So I watched both of these teams basically play for these long field goals, knowing that their kickers are going through some struggles. And I was thinking earlier in the game because the Bengals had multiple chances to kick long field goals, and they opted to punt and pin the Packers back inside their own 20, even though I think neither time they successfully did that. And I think it ended up in touchbacks for both of them. But they had opportunities to send McPherson out for 57-yarders or maybe a 59-yarder. And we know that it's in his range. We know that he has that power, but they decided not to do that earlier in the game. And then they decided to just trust his leg because the game counted for it. They needed those 3 points and they couldn't get closer because of some lack of execution errors on offense and maybe some questionable play calling here and there. So it was a weird dichotomy scene earlier in the game where they were not aggressive and opted to punt instead of kick the field goals. And then later in the game, they opted to go for these long field goals. And all of a sudden they had trust in their kicker. And of course he misses both of his while Mason Crosby misses 3 of his kicks. So just a wild game that I don't think you can compare to any other wacky. It's the Packers, man. They never play a normal game against the Packers ever since Brett Favre had that ball stolen by a crazy fan that ran on the field.
Huh. You learn something stupid every day. So somebody literally ran on the field and stole the ball from Brett Favre?
Yeah.
That was back in 2005.
It was all over Sports Center and everything too.
Yeah.
I think Jay Morrison just wrote up an article about it on The Athletic, like recapping that whole thing. It's like an all-time interesting Bengals event for real.
Because the Packers were driving down at the end of that game, and Brett Favre had the ball, and they were doing the 2-minute drill, and then for whatever reason there was a stoppage in play, and all of a sudden this dude runs on and steals the ball from Favre. He's acting like he's Superman. He's trying to score with it, and he gets tackled at the 10-yard line. All the quote-unquote momentum is stopped for the Packers, and then the Bengals end up winning that game. And then Marvin Lewis apparently slipped the guy a $20 bill the next time that he saw him at some outing or something like that.
$20. How the hell you fucking Marvin Lewis? You give him fucking $20 or $20? All right, now
he doesn't work for the Bengals.
Oh dang! This dude freaking tried to stiff arm the security guard.
I think I was actually at that game with my dad, and he mentioned that he wanted to get that guy on the Bengals to be able to play fullback.
like Brett Favre just walking what's going on? And you go get your ball. This is my first time ever seeing this. I can't believe I've never seen this before.
I mean, what was it when it happened in 2005?
So 16 years ago.
Thomas, you would have been 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was all over Sports Center, but I don't know how much you were paying attention to Sports Center when you were 10.
Oh, I used to watch Sports Center every day, but I didn't watch Sports Center after the Browns lost because I'd be depressed. So the Browns probably lost that day.
I didn't watch Sports Center when I was 10. I watched it.
I watched it. I just
SpongeBob.
didn't. Oh yeah, I watched SpongeBob too. I love me some like old school SpongeBob, like SpongeBob before during the first 3 seasons, not after the first 3 seasons.
That was all I watched as a kid. Sports Center and SpongeBob on rotation. I wake up with Sports Center and then come home from school and watch SpongeBob. Like that was me.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Sports Center, SpongeBob. Yeah.
I always just found ESPN obnoxious as hell. Like, yeah, I rejoiced when my parents finally picked up like the extra package on cable, and we got NFL Network because I like them so much better than I like the idiots on ESPN.
Can I say something about the missed field goals in the game and the tie?
Go ahead.
So I'm watching the game and I'm enjoying my Sunday watching the game. And I'm just like, oh yeah, the kicker for the Packers missed another field goal. Evan McPherson, he can't miss another field goal, can he? This is the guy who I freaking got on my fantasy team. This is the freaking young prodigy himself, the greatest kicker, the chosen one. That I heard from the Bengals fans. Bengals fans been hyping this man up so much. I thought he was the second coming of LeBron James, and then he comes up and then he misses the field goal. Oh my God.
Yeah, the kicker's the second coming of LeBron James, let me tell you.
He's the LeBron James of kickers. He's LeBron James of kickers.
I don't know about that. Actually, I took a lot of heat on Twitter because I said that I was worried about Evan McPherson after the miss because, guys, this is his third missed field goal in 2 games. So I think there's maybe I think I may have worded it a little wrong. I'm concerned, and I think he should be concerned. I think Darren Simmons should be concerned. I think everybody should be concerned about what they're seeing, and I think it needs to be worked on. Am I ready to give up on this guy? No, I'm not. But I do feel that it's perfectly reasonable, and I think right to be worried that he's missed 3 field goals in a row. Not 3 field goals in a row. 3 field goals in 2 games.
You can't analyze kickers at all, logically. It's entirely mental. It's like dealing with Jamar Chase's drops in the preseason. He never had any issues with drops in LSU, and then he goes into preseason and he can't catch the damn football, and now everyone's thinking that he can't catch, and then he explodes in 5 games and looks like the next coming of Randy Moss. This thing could be over for McPherson next week, or it can continue because we just don't know about kickers. It's a complete enigma whenever they get into these funks. And Mason Crosby made 26 in a row and then missed 3 in a row. Some things they're just isolated variables,
Yeah, then Jamar Chase drops a sure first down against the Packers.
I think it helped. I think it helped that the other kicker sucked too. So that kind of helps. So I was bad, but he's not as bad that guy.
It makes it more digestible, but like I said, I think I don't know anything about kicking. I played wide receiver and cornerback, so I don't know anything about kicking. I can't tell you if there would be anything for him to work on or anything like that. I'm just saying I think a moderate amount of concern is fair because now I think he's going to work through it. I think he's going to be fine, but I think it's perfectly acceptable to look at this and be like, because I'm not going to lie. The next time he lines up for a kick, I'm going to be like, because and I was hoping that I wouldn't have that worry because I'm scarred by Randy Bullock, man. Now, in Evan McPherson's defense, he did come out immediately after Zac Taylor in the press conference, and he owned up to it. He didn't act like he had leg cramps or anything like that. But yeah, that's just a little tiny bit of concern,
He hit the post on a 57-yarder and basically he thought he made it from 49 in the win. It's not like these are just straight up shanks that Bullock was dealing with and the other kickers have had to go through in that. I just don't I don't see the need to really worry about whenever he goes up for the next kick,
Well, I mean, so let's I get the whole kicker thing. And I get it. I think the kicker's going to be fine long term. I think that these players on these teams, especially when you talk about a young team like Cincinnati and a young team like the Browns, there's so much room to grow. You do not want your best football to be played in week 5. But I think the more pressing matter to me for the Bengals was the fact that they held the Packers to only 22 points in regulation. They wasn't able to take advantage of it. Like that messed with me because, like, I mean, those 2 interceptions, Burrow had 2 interceptions, correct? Am I not mistaken?
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough, man. I mean, like, Burrow, I'm a big fan of Burrow. I'm not gonna go on this podcast and criticize Burrow. John, I don't know how much you watched our podcast. I'm not actually huge on Burrow. I think that he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the league within the next couple of years. Like, I think his ceiling is unmatched. But I'm not really. I didn't think he played a bad game, but I don't think this was his best game.
That's completely fair. I think you look at the 2 games that they've lost. He forced some throws against the Bears and led to 3 interceptions in that game, or 4 or whatever. 3. And that could have been attributed to the fact that the offense was just stale the entire game, and he felt the need to force those things. But you look at these 2 interceptions, he was trying to make a throw that Aaron Rodgers could make, rolling out to his right and sling it down 30 yards, and it came up a few yards short, and that's why the cornerback was able to pick it off. The second one is just, it's completely inexcusable, not only for any other starting quarterback, but for Burrow, who his biggest trait, his biggest attribute is his pre-snap cognizant and his chemistry with his receivers. And for him to just throw it out in the middle of the field, expecting Boyd to break over the middle and right into the linebacker's hands, like that's when they should have lost. Like, Mason Crosby should not have missed that second kick that he missed in overtime, and that should have been the game. And then they got the chance to redeem themselves, and then Burrow came back and hit a nice throw to Chase, and then McPherson missed a kick. So both teams, they had just to win, and they didn't do it. And honestly, at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers outplayed Joe Burrow, which is not that big of a surprise. He's Aaron Rodgers, but these are the games that Joe Burrow needs to play his best in order to win. And unfortunately, they didn't do that.
You made a good point. All right, so I'm interested in something. So you said something interesting. You said that Joe Burrow tried to make a throw that he knows Aaron Rodgers can make. And then this is one thing that fascinates. This is why I love the NFL. This is why I love football. It's because there's different ways to play the position at quarterback. Every single quarterback have their own style. Every single quarterback have their own way of driving a ball downfield. Like Lamar Jackson, for example, is trying to run all over the Colts, but failing. But like Lamar Jackson, like, he uses legs. Aaron Rodgers had this ability to roll out and make these crazy angle throws. So do you think that young quarterbacks especially, try harder to? Do you think other quarterbacks are getting other quarterbacks' head? For example, like you said, Aaron Rodgers kind of got into Joe Burrow. Did Aaron Rodgers get in Joe Burrow's head because Joe Burrow is trying to beat Aaron Rodgers, or are you trying to be on Aaron Rodgers' level? Are you trying to prove to the media that he can compete on Aaron Rodgers' level? Is that a thing that goes through their head psychologically? Is there a way that do quarterbacks force themselves to not be themselves to compete with others? I don't know. There's a question there. I'm just trying to formulate it. I've been drinking Michelob Ultra.
I don't know if it goes that deep and that specifically with Burrow trying to match Rodgers just in the game. I think that Burrow is just kind of in that mold of just, he's not going to give up on plays, and he's not going to just throw it away. Like, Bengals fans, I mean, Kyle can attest to this. Like, we saw that for 9 years with Andy Dalton. He threw the ball away on 4th down. Like, that's just, he never had that aggressiveness. He never had that ability to see plays further than just what was in front of him. So Burrow, I mean, sometimes you're going to have to live with those mistakes, because ultimately he can also give you plays like the long touchdown pass to Jamar Chase and some other plays that he can create out of structure. I think that's just more or less who the quarterback that he is. Unfortunately, he knows that, or he should know that there are some limitations with his game. He doesn't have this arm that Mahomes, Rodgers, or even Justin Herbert has, where he can just throw off platform and it can just get there in an instant 40 yards down the field. And sometimes that's going to get him into trouble. But for the most part, I think you have to live with that aggressiveness, because it can lead to good things more than bad things.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's that second interception that he threw in overtime kind of reminded me a lot of when I'm playing Madden, And I've just got this idea in my head that I'm going to try to make like, this big play. And instead of like actually trying to read the, like the whole defense, I'm just trying to like pay attention to where my wide receiver is and who I want to go to, because I know they're going to be the ones who's going to get me a big play. And I just like I hit the button, and then like half a second later I realize, oh shit, there's a linebacker there. That's what that reminded 100%. Me of.
Yeah, you don't expect that from Burrow though. Like
that's the problem. I'm me.
Right.
This is why I do a podcast and I don't play football anymore.
It's crazy, but.
I tell you what, though, I really liked what I seen from Samaje Perine. Samaje Perine. Samaje Perine. Yeah. By the way, let me go first when we do underrated player of the week.
No. Fine.
Well, okay. Well, I may or may not have just gave it away.
Well, you did give it away, and that's who I picked. So now I'm gonna have to pick someone else.
Hey, look! You see, that's my warning that you better pick somebody else. You know your team better than I know your team. I pick somebody that I think because I pick somebody that I think is underrated. It'd be like Thomas. Everybody knows that person. I'm like, well, I didn't realize that everybody knew him.
Sometimes you do that with your own team.
Well, see, that's unfair because Odell
Beckham Jr. is the underrated player of the week. Like that doesn't count.
Yeah, it does, because how often does Odell Beckham actually have a big play anymore?
That's kind of been my
sad
point
thing
on
to hear.
The podcast.
I love Odell. I love Odell. Like I contemplated making a song about Odell. I still might, as long as my friend don't mess up the beat again. But I love you, Cyrus. But I enjoy Odell. But we'll get to him in a minute. Trust me, I got something to say about him.
All right, so the other main point I wanted to talk about with the Bengals is Zac Taylor. Now,
ooh, this is fun.
This year is kind of like that game was a prove it game for the Bengals. This year's a prove it year for Zac Taylor, because it's like you got all your guys. This is your team now. This isn't like Marvin Lewis's old veterans who don't like you. Not trying to play hard for you, quitting on your team and stuff like that. These are your guys that you hand selected. Let's go out and let's do something. Now, I don't think they need to go compete for the Super Bowl this year. I think they need to be competitive in the playoff race for Zac Taylor to stick around and for him to prove that, hey, there's something going on here. But a lot of people are looking at this game and they're pointing out Zac Taylor as the reason we lost, because very few people, like you were saying, John, Evan McPherson being young and being in the position he's in, nobody's actually looking at Evan McPherson, especially because, like you said, Thomas, Mason Crosby also missed a bunch of kicks. No one's really blaming Evan McPherson for this game. Nobody's got the balls to blame Joe Burrow for this game either, including me. A lot of people are taking the easy scapegoat route, and they're saying Zac Taylor's got bad decision making. Zac Taylor got bad play calling and stuff. And while some of those things are sometimes true, I think the discussion requires a little bit more nuance than that, because he does have some really good traits. I've been absolutely, especially after dealing with Marvin Lewis for so many years, I've loved his ability to make adjustments at halftime and come out playing like a completely different team at halftime. And that's something that's gone all the way back to when he first took over in 2019. It didn't produce enough results until recently, but you could always tell that they looked like they were doing something different, and they were adjusting on the fly under Zac Taylor in a way they never did under Marvin Lewis.
Shit.
But yeah. John, in your article, you had a quote that I loved, but you called the narrative a convenient cover-up for mistakes that Taylor has no control over. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
So I think there were crucial moments because, for starters, I think the beginning, like the first three quarters, were almost exactly what I think we wanted to see from Taylor, aside from the lack of aggression on like some of those fourth downs where they punted. They were really good at being aggressive on early downs, which was something that we wanted to see. We wanted to see progress in that, especially with Joe Mixon limited. So once they were tied at 22 and they got the ball back from Mason Crosby's first missed kick, there was a drive that led to Evan McPherson's miss with 26 seconds left. There was Chris Evans catching the ball over the middle, having the ability to get the first down, but unfortunately he juked to the outside, thinking he can make a guy miss, ends up going for 2nd and 2. T. Higgins runs a 15-yard comeback to the right. He drops it, maybe ran his route wrong a little bit, leads to 3rd and 2. Tyler Boyd converts the 3rd down, but it's only an 8-yard gain instead of a 15-yard gain that would have been if T. Higgins caught the ball. They cost themselves 7 yards in that sequence, and then they run it like twice to get to, I believe, like the 39-yard line, which set up Evan McPherson's field goal. Say that they have 1st and 10 at the 42-yard line instead of 1st and 10 at like the 47, they could get some more yards to get McPherson in more comfortable field goal range and maybe take some more time off the clock. Those are things that Zac Taylor cannot control. Those were play calls that were good from Taylor's perspective or from the perspective of criticizing Taylor, but unfortunately the execution just wasn't there. And then you go to the next drive after Crosby misses the field goal, after Joe Burrow throws that inexcusable interception, and then they get somehow another chance. And then Taylor, I don't know if he's gun shy of not having Burrow throw early because he just threw the interception, but then he runs the ball like a couple times, and he only throws it once. Joe Burrow only throws it once to Jamar Chase down the sideline for like 20 or 30 yards, and then they run it 3 times, and Joe Mixon just needs one more inch to get that first down. Maybe it was a first down. They didn't review it. Regardless, they have to kick another field goal, and McPherson misses when he thinks he made it. So there were just a handful of things that you can point to that all, I think, equate to equal blame for how this game turned out. They had so many chances to make it right and to make it so much easier for themselves. And honestly, I think if you look at just the entire scope of the game, it's hard to really dig into Taylor and make this game a case for why he shouldn't be the head coach. Because I think we can all agree that there are a lot of things to like about Zac Taylor, but you have to wonder if some of these things maybe are just a little bit too big for him. It's really hard to be the next Sean McVay when it really feels like there's only one of those guys with a 200 IQ that can handle managing the team in the locker room and also making all the adjustments in the game plan and in the actual play calling. It seems like Taylor is on that track, but he's just not quite there yet. And some of these things, if everything doesn't go perfect to plan, which is where the execution errors come into play, then sometimes these games will fall short.
I think Joe Goodberry kind of said it best about Zac Taylor. It's like, now is not the time to be talking about firing Zac Taylor, because first of all, we're 3-2. Like, this is the best start that we've had under Zac Taylor. Like, this is a team that I still, I know we lost the Packers, but we played the Packers well. And I know the Packers are injured and all that. But this is a team that I think right now looks like a team that could potentially be a playoff team. And if we're potentially a playoff team right now, then I think whatever we're doing right now is working. And it sucks that it took 2 years of like bullshit that felt kind of like tanking. I know it wasn't tanking, but it kind of felt like that from a fan perspective. And it sucks that it took that, it took that period. But it is looking like it's starting to pay dividends. And if we just fall off the map and, Zac Taylor is clearly, making all these terrible decisions and stuff like that, then we can start talking about, like, maybe we need to move on from Zac Taylor. But we're not talking about it at 3-2. And like Joe Goodberry said, let's definitely not talk about it if we're 4-2 next week.
Well, can I interject on this? Like, first of all, let me just say this. I wouldn't fire Zac Taylor because y'all seeing progress of the team every single year that he's been coached. Now, like, you guys gotta look at the situation also. Like, the situation, he came into a rebuild situation. It wasn't like Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski came into a team that was already built. Mm-hmm. Zac Taylor came to a situation where he had to rebuild a team. And the team is building, making progress. And you got to look at the progress of this team made the last 3 years. The first year he comes in. What was y'all record his first year? Y'all know about her?
In his first year,
2-14.
Yeah.
2-14. What was the record last year?
4-12.
You already won 3 games. So I mean, you won 3 games and y'all favored against the Lions next week. And then look, you know what though? If I was a betting man, I would say y'all winning your next 3 games. If y'all win your next 3 games, y'all already won 6 games. That's 2 more games than he won last year, and that's 3 times the amount of games that he won his first season. There is progress here. Now even look at this. Y'all are saying y'all talking about the Bengals being a competitive in the playoff race. There are 7 teams who make the playoffs in the league. In the AFC, I will argue the Bengals is the top 7 team in the AFC. I know that is I like Bengals fans. You guys are so realistic. I love take away the pessimism for a second because Joe Burrow is for real. Joe Burrow is a top 10 quarterback in this league. Jamar Chase is one of the best young rookie receivers that we have seen in a long time. This defense that Cincinnati has is no joke. This Cincinnati team is a playoff team. This Cincinnati team is a playoff team. If you look at, let's just play the schedule game for a second. Y'all got the Lions come up next. That's a W. Y'all gonna come back and y'all gonna come back hard. Joe Burrow gonna come back. He's gonna come back with a revenge game. Him and Jamar Chase have a good chemistry with each other. Y'all gonna beat the Lions. Y'all gonna beat the Ravens. The Ravens aren't looking good against the Colts. That's gonna be a good game. That's gonna be a great fight. So who knows? I'm not gonna say y'all gonna win yet. I'm not gonna say y'all gonna lose. We'll figure that out. To be continued. The Jets. I play against the Jets. If y'all don't beat the Jets on Halloween, then I want to be scared. But you're gonna beat the Jets. The Browns and Bengals, I plead the fifth. The Bengals versus Raiders. The Raiders are looking like they're having all kinds of in-house issues. By November 21st, y'all should be able to smoke the Raiders. The Steelers are laughable. Then y'all got the Chargers. Then y'all got the Chargers. It's gonna be a tough game. It's gonna be a shootout. That's gonna be a team that you guys are able to test how good you guys are. But I wouldn't be surprised if y'all lose that game. The 49ers are gonna be a test. But after that, y'all can win. Y'all can realistically win 10 games this year, 11 games this year, easily. As long as there's no reason why this team can't win 10, 11 games this year. I don't see I don't see enough holes in this team not to think that this team cannot be a playoff team. This team is more than capable of being a playoff team. And not only are they capable of being a playoff team, they're capable of winning a playoff game with that quarterback. And I think Zac Taylor's not holding them back either.
I'll play devil's advocate just for the sake of because I think this is a good time to bring it up because Thomas, you watched Baker Mayfield's first 2 years in the NFL, and you watched it under Hugh Jackson and then Freddie Kitchens. I'm not going to compare Zac Taylor to those two guys running football teams, but I think that is more or less what Bengals fans are fearing. Regardless of our opinions on Zac Taylor, I think that the main criticism is he holding Burrow's development back? Because that was a clear issue with Mayfield, and then Mayfield gets a real head coach, and he looks really good under Kevin Stefanski. I think if there is an angle to argue about moving on from Taylor, despite the progress in the win column, I think that is it. Because it still, I think, remains to be seen how much Burrow can improve under Zac Taylor. Because I think Taylor's fine in other regards as being a head coach, but if there is an argument to move on from him after when that time appropriately comes up, that will be the angle that many will take. And I think a lot of Browns fans can understand that.
Oh, no, trust me, I understand it completely because I can tell you the biggest thing that I noticed from watching Baker Mayfield from, holy crap, we got breaking news.
What's
can
that?
Can I, it just came, you seen it too, John?
Yeah.
Do you see it too, John? John Gruden just got fired, or he's out.
What?
They haven't cleared if he got fired. He resigned
Holy
as
crap.
head coach of the Raiders.
Wow. Where'd you get that news?
It just came across. That was you got that. That was your notification. I heard. Yeah.
No, that was a Facebook.
No. Okay, yeah. So that just happened.
Was that on the Ravens game?
Talk about head coaches. No, it came up on my phone. It was an ESPN alert. It's probably gonna be on the Ravens game any second now. Wow, that just threw off my whole frame of thinking. I guess what I was gonna say was the biggest difference between Baker Mayfield when he switched head coaches was the interception rate and the turnover rate dramatically changed between Kevin Stefanski and Freddie Kitchens, and I don't think that's a coincidence. So yeah, I do think I do agree with you. The head coach can affect the development of a player, but that's tough because you can end up getting moving on from Zac Taylor and getting somebody who won't get the post of the locker room. It's really hard to find a NFL head coach that sticks. This is not an easy thing. as you're seeing with Oakland, Las Vegas, we always do it. Damn, we always do it. But as you see with Las Vegas, it's not. You can have all the tools, but it's really hard. The two hardest things that's hard. The two hardest things it is to find in the NFL is a head coach and a quarterback, and it's really hard to have both. And it's really hard to have both for a long time. And we look at the Patriots and what they did, and that's the gold standard. But man, like I don't know, man. That's tough because you can move on from Zac Taylor and land at something a lot worse. And I know that's a fear that we shouldn't live in our fears and whatnot. But that's just that's how hard it is to find a good head coach in the NFL.
That was one of the biggest arguments that I saw a lot of Bengals fans making for why we shouldn't move on from Marvin Lewis. And that's a big part of the reason why we got stuck with Marvin Lewis for 16 years. I mean, like, I was personally saying Marvin Lewis should be the head coach up until I think 2014 was when I was like, all right, time to move on. But that was basically what it was. A lot of people were scared we were going to go back to the 90s, and we did kind of briefly go back to losing a lot of games and looking like we had no direction. But I felt like a lot of the reason that we lost early in Zac Taylor's tenure was because the team was just the roster, the chemistry, everything was just an absolute mess. And he basically had to rebuild the whole organization from scratch. And that sometimes takes a couple of years. Marvin Lewis, walked into a bad situation too. But at the time, I felt like Dick LeBeau had done a decent amount of team building at that point. And I mean, the problem back then was just the quarterback play was just such a train wreck. But I mean, you still had some good pieces with Marvin Lewis, or with the transition to Zac Taylor. All the good pieces you had were either, old or hurt or both. And then there was Andy Dalton, who's Andy Dalton.
He's only 38 years old. Man. We got Zac Taylor. He's only 38 years old, isn't he?
Oh, yes.
He's only
no, he's not.
No. Man, like I don't know. I just my problem is I really want to see. My opinion on Zac Taylor is just like this is my first year that I'm really like testing Zac Taylor in my head. Like the last 2 years for me, don't really count for me because the first year you come to a team where they're just trying to establish I'm a Cleveland fan. I've seen so many rebuilds. The Cavs rebuilt like 2 times, both times LeBron left. The Browns rebuilt 20 times. The Guardians are going through a retooling, a rebranding, all that stuff. Like, trust me, I'm from Cleveland. Nobody knows the rebuild better than me. So, me watching this from an outside fan's perspective, I know how impatient you can get during a rebuild because rebuilds are long and dried out, and they feel a lot longer when you're going through it. But looking from the outside in, I really think that this is the first year that you got to really grade Zac Taylor because this is the year that he has actual talent. And I really want to see, and the way we compare him to Marvin Lewis, because he's starting to have about the same amount of talent that Marvin Lewis had when he had those playoff runs. I really want to see how he execute through the season, and is he able to get the team to the playoffs, and is he able to win a playoff game? I think that's going to be how we test Zac Taylor. I think this is the year that we test Zac Taylor. Like I think that personally, I don't want to say that I think they should fire him until the end of the season. I think that the end of the season is when we should start having that conversation. But I do think that
I absolutely agree with that.
If the wheels fall off, but if the wheels fall off, like if y'all honestly, if I'm being real with you, Kyle, I'm gonna say this. This is honestly how I feel about it. There are 7 teams to make the playoffs in the NFL this year. The AFC is very top heavy, but I'm about to be real with you. If the Bengals do not make the playoffs this year, with the Patriots not looking good, and honestly the AFC West, where the second best team in the AFC West is the Broncos. So if the Bengals do not make the playoffs this year, if the Bengals do not make the playoffs this year, I think you fire him. Without a doubt.
It depends on how that happens. But anyway, we're kind of we're already up to like 40 minutes right now, so we should probably go ahead and move on to the Browns. Just to finish off this discussion, that article from John Sheeran is execution or play calling. The Zac Taylor conversations needs nuance. It's up on Cincy Jungle. Go check that out. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to these Browns. You got time? You want to stick around, John?
I got time to stick around for a little bit, but I don't know how much value I'm going to have in this discussion. I haven't really watched the Browns until yesterday when I saw them run on 3rd and 10. So
can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question, John?
Yeah.
Did you expect Jay Gruden to be out before, or you expect John Gruden to be out before Urban Meyer? Because I didn't.
Well, I don't know if Urban Meyer has. I don't know if Urban Meyer has pinned himself against literally every group of minority out there. So, well, that's remained to be seen.
You're right. Yes, that's good. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. Damn it, Urban Meyer, you're gonna be fired sooner or later. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was so hyped up. I was so hoping that the breaking news would be, God damn it, man. God damn it, Jacksonville. Okay.
Someone's asking to find Urban's emails next, so waiting on that.
Oh yeah, honestly,
we'll take Julian Assange on him.
All right. So let's get into these Browns. Kyle, do you got anything to like? It's the part where you go like, Thomas, what the hell happened to your Browns? And then you have this whole like written monologue about how you feel about it. Go ahead, Kyle.
Well, okay. First of all, I don't have a written monologue. But second of all, I'm not going to say that about the Browns. Like, I don't feel that the Browns did that badly. I feel like they fell short at the end. I don't know what the hell was up with that defense all game.
Yeah,
but then it was Justin Herbert. You know, it's hard to slow that guy down. I don't know. The Browns are 3-2. Bengals are 3-2. This was a prove-it game, and I feel like the Browns mostly came and brought it. Baker Mayfield came and brought it. I don't know why. Actually, I do have a question for you now. Now that you mentioned it, why the hell is everybody attacking Baker Mayfield for this game?
I don't know. I'm asking. Look, and I had this in my notes too. Like before I came to this podcast, what the hell is wrong? Like I'm gonna have top 5 things that you gotta blame before you blame Baker Mayfield. Number 1, the refs. Like I don't usually say the F word on this podcast, but WTF. Washington team football. Like what the heck, refs? Like first of all, that there was, if y'all haven't seen the game, there was a play where it's 4th down. It was 3 minutes left in the 4th quarter, and the Chargers were losing by 7. And Justin Herbert threw a bomb down the sideline. And kid you not, the receiver took the Browns cornerback by the neck and threw him down on the ground. You know what the refs called? Defensive pass interference. That's like walking in the alley, getting your ass beat by 4 people, going to the cops, and get arrested for assault. Like, how does that make sense? Make that make sense. The whole thing is that it wasn't Baker. The game wasn't Baker's problem. The game wasn't Baker's fault. The reason why people are saying the game was Baker's fault is because Baker had the ball with 1 minute and 45 seconds left with no timeouts, and the ball at the 15-yard line, and couldn't drive the ball down the field. But in reality is, if you go back and watch that game, the biggest problem at the end of the game was the play calling. It was the play calling. You watched the end of that game, right, Cal?
Yeah. I watched the tail end of that game.
The tail end of that game was probably Kevin Stefanski's worst coach performance in his entirety in the NFL. And that hurts me to say that because I love me some Kevin Stefanski. Like I don't know if y'all have y'all coach, but we definitely do. And Kevin Stefanski is a great coach. And he's such a good coach that you forget that he's only a second-year head coach. Like you just forget that because he's been so he crossed his eyes and dotted his T, or he crossed his T's and dotted his I's all through the first 2 years of the season. And like, I can't complain about what I've seen from Kevin Stefanski so far. Kevin Stefanski has just been a freaking wizard with his team. But first of all, running the ball, he ran the ball when he should have passed the ball. And he passed the ball when he should have ran the ball. And I was so confused by the play calling with those last two possessions.
I feel like I want the kind of coach who crosses his I's and dots his T's, because that's creative thinking right there.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway from this game, though, like you said, the Browns went toe to toe with probably one of the best teams in the AFC, probably one of the best teams in the NFL. The Chargers is great. Not only that, they weren't home; they were away. They were in. Well, I mean, there were a lot of Browns fans in that stadium, but they weren't in Cleveland. They went across the country, put up offense. Probably should have won the game. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, they looked phenomenal as always. Baker Mayfield had a phenomenal game with a torn labrum in his left arm, a compromised labrum in his left arm, without his best receiver, Jarvis Landry, with Odell Beckham still being missing. Like, where the hell are you, Odell Beckham? Like, Kyle, you might be right, honestly, on Odell. I might.
Look, Thomas.
It hurts me like that kills me.
I've been saying that kills me since he got drafted.
That kills me, man. That kills me, man. That kills me. It wasn't even, the receivers weren't getting separation this game. There was no separation for the receivers. I mean, David Njoku, he got open. But the reality was there was no separation by the receivers this game. And Odell Beckham, you're supposed to be one of the best receivers in the NFL. You should always be open. You're freaking Odell Beckham. Like Jamar Chase from your same school doing what he's doing. Why aren't you doing any of this stuff, Odell Beckham? Jarvis Landry's on the same team, the same quarterback. You look what he's able to do. Why aren't you doing the same? Like, I don't know, man. I'm frustrated.
I mean, he did say he's been playing with a torn labrum ever since he was in high school, so maybe he's just catching up to him.
Maybe he is more hurt than he let on. I mean, what do you think about Odell Beckham, John?
I miss the old Beckham, man. I miss that Giants version. I was excited honestly, I was excited that he was coming to the division, because that was when AJ Green was still with the Bengals, and I thought that those two were gonna have dominant clashes, and now Jamar Chase is there, and I hope that Beckham can get back to what he used to be. It's been so long. Like, I really thought that he was going to be like contending with Antonio Brown and Julio Jones, and I don't know, man. Like, because I mean, for years now, it's been this discourse with Jarvis Landry, and like how like Browns fans defend him to the death, and like comparing him to Odell. Like, I always thought that was nonsense, but time has gone on, and it's like, when am I going to see that Odell that I remember? And I just don't know if it's ever going to happen at this point.
And it's frustrating because Jarvis Landry Cleveland got better, and like, honestly, the first year he didn't really play that bad. He didn't play great. He wasn't explosive. He still had 1,000 yards, but like,
right.
I don't know, man. There's still 12 weeks in this season. There's still 12 weeks in this season, man. Odell, Odell's gonna have plenty of chances to prove himself. Like, he had a good catch. He had one good catch in the game. But he had that drop. That drop was frustrating. Man, honestly, you know what it is? I just don't think that him and Baker, I still chalk up to this. I don't think him and Baker are on the same page. And I think what it is, and this is what I heard on the radio, I don't know this for a fact, because I don't know what they're calling, but everything I'm hearing from people, this is a popular thing that people are saying. Very popular thing. And I have no source in this. This is what I'm hearing from the media, from people on the radio, and from people. And people believe that Odell Beckham isn't a traditional route runner. He runs to get open. He oftentimes don't run the route that is played on paper. While Baker Mayfield is somebody who is very organized about where he wants his receivers to be at. He's very organized on how he wants your routes to be. If you run your routes right, Baker Mayfield will find you. That's why Rashard Higgins is one of Baker Mayfield's favorite receivers, because Rashard Higgins always run his routes very well. Baker Mayfield always know where Rashard Higgins is at. Jarvis Landry, he's a great route runner. So Baker Mayfield always finds Jarvis Landry. The argument is that Odell Beckham, he kind of improvs out there. That's something that I heard. I don't know that for a fact. That's something that I heard. But when you look at that, when you look at plays like the play at the end of the game against the last week against the Vikings, where Odell went deep and Baker threw it like Odell was supposed to come on a curl route. That was, to me, it was so obvious what happened there. Baker wanted Odell to come in. Odell went out. To me, what it seems like is Baker and Odell have two different philosophies on how they should play the game, and they're not clicking. Until they click, it's not going to work, and it's frustrating to watch. So frustrating to watch.
You remember Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. were both, I believe, were they the same draft class, or were they?
Yeah, same draft class.
A year. They were the same draft class. Yeah, same draft class, same school. Part of a lethal wide receiver trio at LSU. Do you know who the third wide receiver in that trio was, John Sheeran?
I'm sorry. No, because
he missed it.
Because they were both 1,000-yard receivers, right? At LSU.
I'm sort of exaggerating about the greatness of the third receiver.
Oh, you got me there.
Do you know who I'm talking about? No. Former Cincinnati Bengals great, James Wright.
James Wright? Oh my God.
Yeah. He's amazing.
Yeah. He was a seventh round pick in 2014.
Yeah, he had so much damn potential. I mean, he basically won us that game against the Carolina Panthers back in 2014, and would have set us up for like a really impressive year. And then Mike Nugent just shanked the kick, ended up in tie. I believe that was the last time. Oh, and by the way, I said earlier incorrectly that we went 4-12 last year. We went 4-11-1 because we tied the Eagles. It felt like a loss. Because what's that you always say about Carson Wentz, Thomas?
He sucks, but he's not sucking right now against the freaking Ravens. Hey, real quick, John, I want to ask you one more question about this. Kind of as we kind of close on the Browns. But I want to ask you one more question because I really want to get this. I really want to ask you this before we got here. So with this whole John Gruden thing. I don't really want to get into the logistics on why he got fired, but I want to talk about the after effects real quick. What do you think this means for the Raiders, a team that's just outside of first place of their division, a team that looked good the first couple of weeks, a team that's on both of our schedules, from both of these teams' schedules? What do you think this means for the Raiders for the rest of the season?
Man, I have no idea. Like he should have alienated every single player on that team. And I feel like this can either just break the team, or depending on how they respond, it can almost unite them. Like I didn't think that they were that good before all of this came out. I thought they were borderline on fraud watch, and I think the charges kind of exposed them a little bit. But like I thought something similar with the Jaguars coming off of what happened with Urban Meyer, and I thought that could be something that could rally them, and then they end up losing by 2 touchdowns to the freaking Titans at home. So it could honestly go both ways, but I do think that the Raiders are obviously better than the Jaguars, so they have the potential to rally and bounce back. But I mean, this is obviously nothing good, because I don't think we've ever seen this type of leak with this like much derogatory nature from this head coach. Like this is kind of unprecedented, specifically from a coach that had such an unprecedented contract attached to him as well.
I mean, he had a 10-year contract or something.
Yeah, at the beginning, but like, he's been the coach for like 3 years now, so he still had like 7 years left on that contract, and I don't know how much of that was guaranteed, but man, that just looks like one of the all-time like head coach busts, especially considering how good he was back when he originally coached for the team. You know, got him to the point where they were ready to go to the Super Bowl, and then they did go to the Super Bowl, and they ended up running into him.
I think the crazy thing is about this though is that this whole John Gruden news pretty much bailed out Urban Meyer. Like, damn,
honestly,
so close.
Nobody's talking
like
about
so
Urban.
close. It's so close. Urban Meyer is probably like it's like yes.
Well, you know what though, it did not bail out Urban Meyer though. It bailed him out as far as like the news media, and so maybe Jaguars ownership has relaxed on him a little bit because nobody's talking about it anymore. But it did not bail him out with the players because, I mean, you heard those reports. The players lost all respect for him when he acted like, you know, I wrote up in my, I actually haven't released it yet, but in my power rankings, I was talking about the Urban Meyer situation. And I said he basically acted like a first grader who got caught throwing rocks at windows. And the players just lost all respect for him. So that doesn't come back just because John Gruden might be worse.
I mean, if you look, both situations are situations you do not want your head coach to be caught in. The one situation, to Urban Meyer's defense, though, and I hate defending Urban Meyer, he was at he was in Ohio after the game, and he got a lot of roots in Ohio. He had a whole restaurant. He was at a restaurant named after him. It wasn't like he was just at like Club Bourgeois. He was at Club Urban Meyer. Like he was at his freaking own club. Like honestly, let's be real. If I had my own club and I was in Ohio visiting from Florida, I probably won't come to Ohio that often. But if I was in Ohio visiting from Florida and I had a club named after me, I'm probably gonna go to the club too and get my little groove on too. So I mean, like honestly, what Urban Meyer did wasn't bad. It was the execution afterwards. But like, I mean, like what Jay Gruden did, like John Gruden, like that's that's pretty bad.
I think that's without question. I mean, like I'm not gonna sit here and say what Urban Meyer did wasn't bad, but I will say I don't know if I entirely care because I mean that's his personal life and his personal business.
Yeah, I mean, like,
but at the same time, the way he handled it afterwards was that's the real issue here is from like a football perspective, like from what we are interested in talking about perspective. It's just like a media firestorm happened. Regardless of whether it should have or not, regardless of whether or not we're approaching like National Enquirer territory, talking about some dude's personal life. But it happened, and he just made a fool of himself in front of his players, and his players don't respect him anymore. Like, John, you remember all that talk everybody was talking about in 2019, where there was – actually, this might have been 2020, where there was a lot of those reports coming out that Zac Taylor had lost the locker room and nobody wanted to play for him anymore. And Bengals fans were just like, oh, we got to get rid of this guy because he's lost the locker room. Obviously, nobody likes him, even though it was like 3 people. But – the fans still had that reaction, but Zac Taylor didn't come out and like do one of these numbers with his team and then like basically come out and make them disrespect him further. He did quite the opposite. He did what Urban Meyer should have done, and he was just like, guys, you know who I am. Let's talk about it. I'm right here. I mean, I don't know that's what he did, but when I listen to Zac Taylor talk in press conferences and I get an idea of who Zac Taylor is, that's the kind of approach I imagine someone like him would take.
Yeah, I think. I'm sorry, Thomas. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want to hear what you say because I'm reading something right now. Go ahead. I want to hear what you guys say. I'm really interested because your takes has been phenomenal. Your takes have been wonderful. I love having you on this podcast. So keep on going because I love it. You're doing great. Let's hear it.
I appreciate that. Like, I think it was because we have never, at least in our conscious lives, had never been through a coaching transition like that before. Marvin Lewis was there for 16 years. So at least for me, I can only speak for myself. I didn't know everything that went with overall roster turnover and coach turnover and stuff like that. So when I hear that a lifelong Bengal and Carlos Dunlap is having issues with the coaching staff and how they're telling him things that he doesn't want to hear and how they're kind of alienating him, I initially side with the player because, I know this player, right? I know what he's meant for the organization, what he's meant for the team, and how he responded and worked with the former head coach. So when I hear stuff about how there's like controversy and stuff, I immediately think, okay, what are these coaches doing wrong? Are they not treating him with respect and stuff like that? And I don't know if it ever was as serious as some of the reports said. Like I ended up talking to Carlos Dunlap's dad about it, and he told me like what had transpired and stuff like that. And I do think that there was some credence to what he said, especially with what happened with Dunlap. But ultimately, I think it's also just a matter of how new coaches mesh with veteran players and how there was just a disconnect that kind of occurred with some of the top players, some of the notable players that ended up not liking how that transition went. And now we're in year 3 and this roster is basically all his, and you're not really hearing any of that stuff anymore. You're hearing a lot of guys actually buy in and believe what he said. And I remember talking to Mike Daniels about this because Mike Daniels never been a Bengal before last year when he joined for Zac Taylor's second year, and he had nothing but great things, genuinely honest, great things to say about Zac Taylor, despite, him playing for other organizations and playing for successful organizations. But he saw the same things that a lot of other people see and feel about Zac Taylor and how he treats his players, how he treats his veterans, how he connects with these guys in ways that Marvin Lewis probably never did, specifically towards the end of Marvin Lewis's tenure. So even though, the record kind of speaks for itself and why Zac Taylor deserves to still be on this kind of mildly warm seat, I think there is a lot of things to say about how he resonates with players and how he relates with them. And that can keep him around in Cincinnati, even if the record doesn't really reflect some of that progress.
Man, I'm reading these comments though. That's why I was reading. Man, damn, you're right, dude. I this is like, dang. I when I first heard about it, I thought there were I didn't read it. I didn't read the comments at all. I didn't like. So for y'all who don't know, who's listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, whatever y'all consuming it on Apple or any other way, I do think this conversation is important, considering myself, being African American myself. And we try not to get on subjects too much about this podcast, but I gotta say, man, like I gotta be real with y'all. If my head coach, if I'm playing for a sports team and my head coach said that to me, and you look at your head coach like he's supposed to be the leader of you, he's supposed to be your captain. He, like, regardless of your belief, he's saying that about you. It's gonna be really hard. It's gonna be really hard for me to put my emotions away. Because football is already an emotional sport. It's gonna be really hard for me to put my emotions away. And then what the media is, and then hear the media go like, hey, you should be mad. Hey, you should be mad about this. Hey, this should bother you. And then you're already like, look, I'm trying to forget about it. Hey, I'm not trying to think about this. Hey, I ain't trying to. And then you're just hearing it. And then you got somebody like Carl Nassar who's trending on Twitter right now. And you know they're hearing this. How do you focus on football anymore? And then not only will I be pissed off, I wouldn't even be pissed off the fact that he got my thing is I wouldn't even be pissed off the fact that he said that, because you know that stuff is out there. You already know that stuff is out there. But the fact that he put your team in that situation to begin with, that you can't focus on football anymore, you can't focus on the thing that you're using to make money, you can't focus on your career anymore because you got this buffoon making these stupid comments. I'll be frustrated about that more than anything. That I can't focus on what I need to focus on. I can't get my job done because my coach is being an idiot. That's ultimately why Urban Meyer should be fired too, because they can't focus on football because they got to worry about their coach having all these problems, acting like a baby, acting like a 2-year-old. Where's the focus on football anymore? This is why these guys are ultimately going to be fired. This is why they're not head coach material, because when you bring Hollywood into the locker room is going to chew you out.
Right on. So,
yeah,
we need to move ahead because we're kind of getting on.
It's a good segment.
We need to go ahead and move on to the underrated players of the week. But real quick, I want to finish up that conversation that we were having about John Gruden because I just saw that John Gruden just released this official statement. It is with great humiliation and embarrassment that I announce my resignation from the Las Vegas Raiders. I pride myself and think of myself as a man of faith, as there's a drive to deep left field by Castellanos, and that'll be a home run, so that'll make it 4-0 ball game. I don't know if I'm going to be putting on this headset again.
Okay.
For those who didn't get it, that was Tom Brenneman. So, okay, let's go ahead and move on to these underrated players of the week. Thomas, you wanted to go first. So why don't you tell me who is your Bengals player of the week and why is it Samaje Perine?
The person that I am going with is Samaje Perine. The reason why I'm going with Samaje. Y'all help me out here. Perine.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, the reason I'm going with Perine is because simply put, we heard the reports that Joe Mixon is going to be hurt onto this game and he's going to be limited. And he stepped up big. You know, he stepped up big. 26-year-old did what he had to do. It brings in the NFL, in modern day NFL, you got to have two, maybe three running backs that can tear it up. And he's showing that the Bengals can have faith in him going forward. So I like what he did. I like the nice little touchdown he had. He caught some balls and out. He caught some catches too. Caught some big catches. Yeah, you got to give it up to him, man. He played well. He stepped up when the team needed him. So that's why I picked him.
He did. He did really good. I had originally picked Samaje Perine for my underrated player of the week too. Now I have to come up with another one. I do have another one, but I just wanted to say a couple things about Samaje Perine. Particularly, he had 51 yards after contact. I remember I turned to my dad while I was watching this man play football, and I'm like, he's just not going down. Like, I mean, I was like a big fan of I wanted the Bengals to keep Jacques Patrick and move on from Samaje Perine because I was like, I don't really know if I'm the biggest fan of him. I think Jacques Patrick and Chris Evans would be really good backups for Joe Mixon, but he really impressed me in this game. He just kept chugging along. It didn't matter how many Packers got on him. He got like 5 yards every time he carried the ball, even if except in the most important situations, as we remember. The biggest problem with him is he cannot pick up a blitz to save his life. And Joe Burrow got smacked on one of those. I forget which drive it was on, but whatever it was, it kind of killed the momentum of everything the Bengals had at that point. They ended up punting. The Packers ended up getting the ball back, and you just hate to see that. But
yeah,
I don't know. You hope the Bengals can eventually find a running back who can actually pass protect. I don't know. I'm pretty sure we still have enough cap room to still have had Giovanni Bernard on the team. So seems like a bit of a missed opportunity there. But whatever.
I mean, he'll good. He needs to work on those blocks, get those blocks going, and he'd be good. Protect the quarterback, protect Joe Burrow though, because Joe Burrow did get that. That hit that Joe Burrow had was nasty. That was
not good to see. Not good to see.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't the most nasty hit of the night. That was that. That stadium just was like we watched somebody actually die. I know they've said it on all the Bengals radio shows and the Bengals podcasts and everything out there, but when they say the crowd hushed, everybody, not even Packers fans, were saying anything, they mean it. Everybody was looking down oh no. Even Packers fans were we don't want to win this way. And he got up, he got evaluated for concussion, he was fine. Supposedly the throat contusion was from a play that was not that play, according to Zac Taylor. But it was, that was a scary hit. But him getting decked because Samaje Perine can't pick up a blitz, that was, that was just that wasn't so much scary as it was just frustrating. I don't know. It looked like Joe was winding up for something good, and then he just. So what do you think, John? Who would you like to shout out as the underrated player of the week?
My underrated player of the week, it might be Chidobe Awuzie, I think. And I say underrated because the box score for Devontae Adams is very damning in that regard. But in respect to Adams, like, good players are going to get theirs, I think. It's hard to go up against Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and expect your defense to completely shut those guys out. Like, every once in a blue moon, those players will lay eggs, right? We saw week 1 with Rodgers. When you go up against Devontae Adams, it's not a matter of can you erase this guy from the game. It's how much can you slow him down just in specific parts of the game. And sometimes great players are going to make great plays. That's why they're great players. I'm sure the Packers studied long and hard about how to limit Jamar Chase in the deep game, and sure enough, Jamar Chase made plays because he's Jamar Chase. I think in general, though, Awuzie did a great job of shadowing him and limiting the amount of yards after catch that he had. But of course, like, he's going to get separation, he's going to do great things. But if Awuzie didn't play in that game, and if it was like Eli Apple out there for most of the time, like, I think it could have been a lot worse. And that is how those great players had these insane games, because they had these monstrous mismatches. So I think Awuzie did a great job for what he's capable of against arguably the best receiver in the NFL, and I think he deserves some credit for that.
Shout out to you, Awuzie.
Yep. Now Chidobe Awuzie is he our starting center, or is Trey Waynes technically the starter?
So they're both starters.
But I mean, like, the number one.
I don't know.
I think Chidobe probably, because he was the one covering Devontae Adams, right? So he was covering the big guy.
So in that scheme, I think they just keep those guys on just one side. I don't know if necessarily they follow other receivers unless it calls for that in the game plan. But I think at this point, like, Awuzie, even when both of them are healthy, he's probably the better player at this point compared to Trey Waynes. So if you want to call Awuzie the number one cornerback, I think you're definitely justified in doing so.
Well, so my main point in saying that is, Chidobe Awuzie, maybe not underrated because he is kind of like the guy in the spotlight when it comes to Bengals cornerbacks, unless you want to count Trey Waynes because of his hamstring problems. But, I mean, as far as, like, good spotlight goes, Chidobe Awuzie has definitely gotten his due. But at the same time, you could also make the argument that maybe he's a little underrated because a lot of people were, like, talking about, like, the big question marks of, like, when we signed him in the offseason. Like, is this really a good signing, or is this just us taking a guy who, is basically a castaway by another team because, he just didn't live up to his due? And we found out, oh, no, that's not the case. And so he really hasn't been underrated since he's been to the Bengals. But you could probably make the argument that, like, he does deserve a shout-out for having been underrated at one point. So I'm going to give my underrated player of the week shout-out to Cam Sample. Because honestly, I think he's probably about the last underrated player who hasn't been talked about yet. And Thomas, you stole my pick because it was going to be Samaje Perine. But, he's been, he's not a starter. He's a rotational defensive end. And, he what was it, like a 4th-round pick we used on him. Didn't really come in with a lot of hype. Nobody really talks about him as being a big part of our scheme or anything like that. But he came in, he got pressure on Aaron Rodgers. Pro Football Focus said, counted it getting 4 different pressures, 3 quarterback hits. He actually stopped Aaron Jones. He was part of that, not Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones. He was part of – Aaron Jones was getting a lot of, stuff out of the backfield, and he had a couple of plays here and there, but there was a lot of stuffs that we had on Aaron Jones. And Cam Sample was part of that. He just, at one point in the second quarter, he just had him basically dead to rights. I think, Aaron Jones managed to pick up a yard out of it. But, on the whole, I'd say, considering how much we expected out of Cam Sample for being a 4th-round draft pick, I think he deserves a little bit of a shout-out here.
Shout out to you, Cam Samples. Shout out to Cam Samples, y'all.
All right. So for the Browns, John, do you want to throw in a player for the Browns, or do you not really feel like it?
Nick Chubb's good.
Yeah, underrated player Nick Chubb.
Hey man, look! Never, ever pass up an opportunity. Nick Chubb.
I still think he's underrated. I honestly do.
He really is.
I think he's the best running back in the NFL.
Okay, well then maybe he is underrated because I think he's the second best running back in the NFL.
Dude, I honestly though, like I really want to know what kind of backfield, how Nick Chubb would be if he didn't have freaking Nick Chubb in the back. Like the Browns, first of all, the Browns, him splitting runs with Kareem Hunt is prolonging his career, so I love it. I personally love it. Like just that prolongs your career. That's less hits on your body. That keeps you more healthy. Like just be comfortable with the amount of runs, but. Dude is still freaking phenomenal. Like, there was a play in the game where they were like, where Kareem Hunt got poked in the eye. They was like, Kareem Hunt has went out of the game, ladies and gentlemen. Kareem Hunt is out of the game after getting a 10-yard run. Now Nick Chubb, who already have 120 yards in the game, man. And then he just busts a 40-yard run down the middle like it ain't shit. Like, oh my God, Nick Chubb is insane. Nick Chubb is so freaking good. You just forget how good he is until you watch him. He's just like, you're like, he can't be that good, can he be? He can't. He's that good. He's insane. That dude's really insane.
I just want to point out real quick that the Ravens are down 16-3 right now. So,
dude, you see that catch? Did you see that catch? Did anybody else see that catch? Did y'all see my reaction to that catch? That's why I was like, oh my God! I was trying not to yell. Y'all didn't see that catch? Nobody else see that play
right now.
No, I've had it minimized this whole time because I've got like 40 different tabs up right now.
Dude got freaking pushed by like 3 Baltimore defenders. First of all, Carson Wentz, you suck, Carson, but you're doing good right now. But you still suck, Carson. So Carson Wentz got hit as he threw a Hail Mary. Dude jumps up, catches the ball literally over the Ravens defender while getting pushed down. He comes down with some Derrick Henry type stuff. Stiff arms the dude down to the ground and then runs to the end zone while he gets tackled and falls to the end zone. He goes like, yep, suck it, Baltimore. And now Baltimore's losing 16-3 because the kicker can't make a field goal.
Well, that and the Colts just got like a big sack on Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, they did. All right, who's your underrated player of the week for the Browns, Kyle?
All right, so my underrated player of the week for the Browns is going to be Rashard Higgins.
Okay, that's good. Good one.
Mainly for him, like he's not underrated as far as this podcast goes because we've talked about him a lot. He was a free agent in the offseason, and I was talking about I was kind of hoping the Bengals would maybe go out and sign him and bring him in to be like, because I'm not the biggest fan of Mike Thomas. I was hoping he'd maybe like, replace some of those back end of the roster receivers. But man, he is he had a good game, man. He scored the Browns' first touchdown of the game. It gave them an early lead over the Chargers that, obviously they didn't hold on to, but it was part of showing that the Browns are, a top contending team playing great against the top contending team. He got massively wide open, just absolutely nobody around him in the exact perfect spot. He destroyed the Chargers zone coverage right before the Browns' next touchdown by Kareem Hunt. And Baker found him wide open, and he's just like, "Hey guys, look at me." He runs 5 or 6 more yards, and it's just perfect setup for the Browns. Just march down the field and get Kareem Hunt in there. Really, really secure hands on the day. Just he didn't even come. He just the second that ball touched his hand, it was like, it was like stick him. He got that thing, absolutely secure. I was thinking about giving it to David Njoku because he's generally underrated in the offense, but because he had such a huge day, it's really hard to call him that underrated because that's what most people are gonna. If anybody who looks at this game, they're gonna think that David Njoku had a great game. So if I say that, I don't. That feels like kind of cheating to me.
I got you. I'm gonna be real quick with mine because this podcast is running a little deep. So for time, I'm just gonna go with I'm gonna go with the backup offensive line that stepped up. Blake Hansen, and James Hudson. You got to give a shout out to the offensive line. When you have two third offensive linemen going down, Jack Conklin and Jedrick Wills, and the Browns have had success running the ball. And they also only allowed 1 sack in that game. That's big. Baker had time. He had a clean pocket. He had a chance to deliver the ball downfield. So, you're going against Joey Bosa. So that was big. That was big for them. The offensive line did a thing. So I gotta give them shout outs. And for that, they get my award for underrated player of the game. Yo, John, you're fantastic, dude. I'm definitely gonna read that article. I definitely appreciate you coming on the podcast. Definitely check us out. Check out our tailgate pregame party before the game. November 7th is going to be real. It's going to be a lot of fun. I love your takes. I love your opinion about football. I love your knowledge about. You're spot on everything you said. I enjoy you, man. I enjoyed you so much.
I appreciate that, Thomas. Thanks, Kyle, for inviting me on, and have a good rest of the show, guys.
Yep.
Awesome, man. All right, there he goes. All right. So as far as the fantasy league goes this week, my team did not do well. like Thomas, your team didn't win either, but you would have beaten me this week. Like my team just absolutely sucked this week. Like I had like Kyler Murray had a terrible game. They ended up winning, but Kyler Murray only got me like 13 fantasy points from my quarterback. Jack Doyle is the only player I still have left playing. He's a tight end for the Colts. Hasn't done anything yet. So right now I have 89.46 fantasy points. I am about to I am
I was winning.
First loss of the season. Yeah, you're not winning anymore.
I was winning. What happened? Come on, Latavius Murray, get a touchdown. Come on, Baltimore, stop sucking so much. I'm so upset.
So Michael Dorsey got smacked by the bot. The bot just absolutely destroyed him. So nobody's going to be undefeated after this. We'll see. I mean, obviously there's still like a couple. There's still like a quarter and a half left to go in this Ravens Colts game. But I mean, I can pretty much definitively say I'm going to lose to Cameron Matthew. Brad, who had 173 fantasy points this week. I actually want to take a quick look at that. Holy crap. He got nearly 40 points from Tom Brady. 24 from Zeke. 24 from David, and he started David Njoku, that son of a bitch. And he started Antonio Brown too. I mean, like he had a wow, that's an impressive game. And he still left Samaje. He had Samaje Perine and left him on the bench, and he still had 173 points.
Man.
Like if he had taken Cordarrelle Patterson out, and put Antonio Brown in the wide receiver slot, and then put Samaje Perine in the flex spot, that he would have gotten like 2 extra fantasy points. That's how good he did. That Samaje Perine getting 16 fantasy points still wouldn't have made that much of a difference. Oh wait, no, you know what? He could have taken Keenan Allen out. And then Samaje Perine would have gotten him about an extra 7 points or so. But so let's see what happened with your team. You lost to Nobody's Perfect, which John.
Hey, I didn't lose yet. I need them running down the middle right now with Latavius Murray. I'm like watching it. I never wanted the Ravens to get a touchdown more in my life than right now.
I don't want them to get a touchdown because I want them to lose. I want them to get wrecked.
Oh, damn it. He just fumbled. You freak. Lamar Jackson. Oh, he just flipped it. Oh my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my TV's buffering at the best moment. Oh, my God. Are you seeing this?
Lamar Jackson fumbled the ball. And,
did you just see that? Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Oh, he did flip it. Holy shit. 34 is going all the way for a touchdown. Holy shit. What just happened? What? That was about to be a Ravens touchdown, and it turned into holy crap, Lamar Jackson. Dude, you know what?
That's like the greatest player I've ever seen in my life.
I want to talk about this a little bit more when we do the state of the AFC North. And by the way,
let's hurry up and get rid of this fantasy. Let's hurry up and go flies through this fantasy because y'all done
Yeah, well, we pretty much said everything we need to say about fantasy.
Yeah. You suck
lost.
nobody perfect. Perfect.
You lost. Yeah, John. I forget what his last name is, but his name is John. He's a Saints fan. I know that. But yeah, that's nothing else really to talk about here in fantasy. I mean, the bot beat Hanging with Hernandez, which helps me out because that means I'm not the only one who's no longer undefeated. Nick Boley won, but I mean, yeah. Other than that, not really a whole lot of interesting stuff going on here.
This next part of the podcast was filmed before the end of the Ravens-Colts game. So you guys go ahead and just have y'all like fun with this because just go ahead and listen.
Interesting stuff going on here. Let's go ahead and move on to the state of the AFC North, which we've kind of already been doing this whole day, or this whole podcast because we've got the Ravens game going on. So we won't have to talk about the Ravens too much. But real quick, I want to talk about Lamar Jackson and ball security because we've talked about that before on this podcast. There's another example of it. Lamar Jackson has the ball. He's about to run it in to get a touchdown, as you've seen Lamar Jackson do so many times. And what does he do? He just fumbles it away. The Colts scoop and score, get a 99-yard defensive fumble return touchdown.
Lamar Jackson does not look good this game, man.
He's like awful. Like, I mean, this is the Lamar Jackson that I think me and you were thinking that we might see like flashes of this year, and we were starting to like on the last episode, we were starting to be like, well, we haven't seen it. Maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe Lamar Jackson is legit, and here you go. What's what I've been saying this whole time. Not this whole time. This is what I was saying all off season is the Lamar Jackson that I expect to see. Maybe not all the time, but spurts of. And it's not helping them here.
What I said before I said that the Ravens are going to have a good start to the season. They're going to start to plateau. Man, this is Lamar Jackson is not good right now, man. Excuse me. You just can't ignore what you're seeing. This is just. I mean, the Colts are a good team, I guess. I mean, they're a well-coached team. They were a playoff team last year, but they're not good enough to be smacking the Ravens around at home on Monday Night Football the way they are.
Well, actually, no. That's not true. The Colts are not a good football team this year. That's what makes this even better. The Colts are a bad football team so far, and they're smacking the Ravens around. Kind of like if you recall, the Raiders were looking like they were going to beat the Ravens, and honestly, the Raiders aren't good. By the way, you were talking about the Raiders and how they've been performing lately, and that's something that's actually kind of coming up and being kind of annoying with my power rankings article. I haven't released it yet, but I've written most of it up, and I had the Raiders at like dropping I think about 5 spots in my power rankings because I'm like, oh, they're frauds. They're obviously frauds. Now this John Gruden news comes out, I'm gonna have to drop them even further. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like right in the middle of me writing this power rankings article, that's when John Gruden gets fired. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, the crazy thing is though is that all right. So I don't.
He might have been
down. Man, but okay. So here's the thing, though. So it just this is about to be a 2-division race. It's about to be the Browns and the Bengals for this division. That last game of the season is starting to become more and more enticing, isn't it?
It's going to be interesting because here's the thing about the Bengals.
November 7th is going to be a lot of fun.
The Bengals are the kind of team that's going to get better as the year goes along, and I think they're going to be competing in the playoff race. Partially because I think they're going to go on a run at the end of the season. So you're right. That late Bengals-Browns game is going to be really interesting because the Bengals should be at the peak of where they could be this season at that point in the year.
See,
that's obviously barring injuries, and with the extra game, you never know if there might be extra injuries that happen, but.
But the thing is, though, the crazy thing is about this, though, is I'm watching this game. Is that I want to be real with you. Like before I come on this podcast, I was expecting actually in this segment to talk about like Lamar Jackson and how he's been proving me wrong.
No, that is a fumble.
No, it's definitely a fumble.
Well, because I was thinking his knee was down, but if you see in the slow motion, it does start to bobble.
Yeah,
And
no. He dropped that ball, and that's the thing though. Like I thought, because I was going to come on this podcast and say, look, Lamar Jackson looking better. He's starting to, but the reality is that it just seems like in the beginning of the season, earlier in the season, things are weird. You could mask a lot of deficiencies early in the season. You can mask a lot of deficiencies early in the season, and the reality is that the Ravens are injury ridden, and there's a lot of problems that they have. And there's a lot of holes that they need to fill that are going to take a long time for them. That's going to be hard for them to fill in the middle of the season without a trade. They didn't call it a touchdown though, but still, you're watching this and you're kind of watching the Ravens kind of unfold in your eyes. Mm-hmm. Now, can Lamar Jackson bounce back from this? Yeah, very possibly. But do I watch this Ravens team? I think they're better than the Bengals or the Browns. No, I don't think so.
They're calling that not a touchdown though.
Yeah, they're saying it's not a touchdown. He's saying his knee was down. So I mean, I don't know. Because Lamar Jackson, there's been moments this season where Lamar Jackson looked like that he had an unlimited ceiling, but there's also been moments this season where you watch Lamar Jackson, you go like, what's up with him turning the ball over the way he is? Yeah. So I don't know what the read is on Lamar Jackson yet. I don't know, but it's not like his second year where he just looked like, oh my God, how you gonna stop this guy?
Right.
Like he is like the league is starting to catch up to him. It's feeling like the league's starting to catch up to him.
I think the league's catching up to the Ravens' offense, and that in turn is making it harder for Lamar Jackson to hide his flaws. And
here's the other thing. Here's the other thing about this. You compare this team to other teams in the division. The Steelers, they may have won, but they still suck. But they still beat a 3-2 team. Even though a fraud 3-2 team. After we'll get to that later. The Browns though, they went toe and toe with was arguably one of the best teams in the league, where people are picking to win a Super Bowl right now, one of the best teams in the league. The Bengals went toe to toe with another top 5 team in the league, and the Green Bay Packers. Mm-hmm. So when you look at those two games, you look at the two games the Bengals and Browns played, where you watch those two games, you go like, these are legit playoff games, and you're just watching the Ravens getting dismantled by the Colts, who they made the playoffs last year, who didn't look good all year. The questions start to rise about the Ravens because they look like they're getting worse, not better.
Yeah, the Ravens are definitely their window's closing, and I mean it's closing fast, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's just for the sake of time, let's. We've been reacting to the Ravens this entire podcast, so we don't really need to talk about them a whole lot. Let's talk about the Steelers, which we don't really need to talk about a whole lot either. Basically, they beat the Broncos. They didn't really decisively beat the Broncos. Broncos almost came back and won, and then Teddy Bridgewater threw a pick at the very end. The Broncos are obvious frauds. And I think that's pretty obvious. They beat 3 of the worst teams in the NFL in their first 3 weeks, and then they came out and played real teams, and they lost both games. Last week they got smacked by the Ravens. This week they barely beat the Steelers, they barely lost to the Steelers, but they still lost, and a loss is a loss. But I still think it's worth noting that this really is, I think, kind of a damning point for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. I don't think they're good. I think that the way they played against the Broncos shows that they're, they can grind it out against the worst of the worst. Not that the Broncos are the worst of the worst. That's actually kind of a dumb way to put that. They can grind it out against teams that are not playoff caliber. They can grind it out against the bottom of the NFL. And I don't think I think that is fair to say at this point. I don't believe the Broncos are a playoff caliber team. Just because they haven't beaten anybody who's any good. And I don't know. I wasn't super convinced by one of their wins anyway when they went on that 3-0 streak. So, look, this Steelers team, there's a lot of questions about them. And, yeah, they won this week. And, yeah, they beat the Bills in a weird Week 1 game. But like I said going into this game that this was a potentially winnable game for the Steelers. It's their last winnable game for a while. I might have lied because the Seahawks don't look that great either, and they just lost Russell Wilson. Although then again, I think Geno Smith and Ben Roethlisberger might be about equal as far as, who's the better quarterback. The difference is, I think, if the Steelers can get healthy enough, the Steelers probably have a better defense than the Seahawks right now. So that one might be kind of a winnable game for them. It's really hard to tell. Oh my God, Carson Wentz just threw a pick on the 1-yard line.
No, it was after a touchdown though. It was a extra. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the kicker's been missing a lot of extra points, so they.
I was about to have like a fucking like are you kidding me, Carson Wentz? Like Tom's I'm thinking honestly, with how much you talk trash about Carson Wentz, I kind of secretly root a little bit. You cannot be just to be okay, just be like, you know what, show those haters wrong, Carson Wentz, and oh my God. God. Okay, I got a question for you. As we close out this podcast, I got a really good question for you. All right.
And I was just thinking about this. I'm sitting here thinking about the Steelers because honestly, like the Steelers, and it really pains me to say this. When I look at the Steelers, I honestly think if they fix 2 or 3 things, they could be back. They could be right back in the mix. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of things that they could just. They got a lot of stuff going from. They got a lot of good pieces on that defense. T.J. Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick. You got a lot of good pieces on that defense, and you got some good receivers out there. I think Juju's a little overrated. You know what I mean? I'm sorry about the injury. I'm not gonna make fun of you on that injury, but I think he's. I don't think that he's the best receiver in the world, but I do think that Claypool. I think he's a really good receiver. I think he has a high ceiling. So I do think that there's pieces. Yeah, I think there's pieces. I think there's pieces there. I think there's pieces in it. And I really do think that the Steelers, the Steelers can rebound when they find a quarterback.
But the Steelers have the same problem I think the Bengals had, in the latter half of the 2010s.
Yeah.
They got a lot of, they've got a couple of pieces here and there, but for the most part, they got a lot of, stuff that's not working anymore, stuff that used to work just doesn't work anymore. They got a couple of pieces. That offensive line has fallen apart to hell and back. And, Najee Harris had a good game against the Broncos, but that's not sustainable behind that offensive line. It's just not. And we've seen it all season.
So I guess my question is to you, in 2 years, who do you think is going to be a better team, the Steelers or the Ravens?
In 2 years?
Yeah. Or, I even make it shorter. By this time next year, who do you think will be the better team?
By this time next year, I still think the Ravens will be a better team.
Okay, cool. All right, let's go in 2 years.
I don't know because it's just it depends if the Ravens can adapt because I feel like Greg Roman's offense is going to get figured out and they're going to kind of fall off a little bit. I don't know if I think they're going to fall off as much as the Steelers, but I also I kind of feel like the Ravens, being the organization they are, they're going to get they're going to stumble, and then they're going to figure their stumble out. So I don't think they're going to be down as long. I think the Steelers are going to be down for a while because they're an arrogant organization that Now, don't forget this. It's not like the Steelers have just been consistently great forever. Don't forget the Steelers for 40 years were the laughingstock of the NFL before the Super Bowl era. Then the Super Bowl era happened, and they weren't good for a few years, and then they won 4 Super Bowls in the 70s, and they were terrible in the 80s because they couldn't find a quarterback. And then they came out in the 90s. They had a lot of up and down play. They did make it to a Super Bowl. They lost that Super Bowl. And then once they got Ben Roethlisberger, things kind of really started getting going for them again. But don't forget this team. I know they had 2 great eras. The Steelers had 2 great eras, and unfortunately, my childhood had to coincide with one of those eras. That sucked. But the Steelers had 2 great eras. But don't forget that outside of those 2 eras, the Steelers have been a really bad organization. So to think that the Steelers could fall off and go back to that level of just like not being a good team for years and years and years, it's not unfathomable. You know, the Steelers, that's what they are. They're an arrogant organization that, doesn't, like they compound, like they know how to catch lightning in a bottle, and I'll give that to them. But when they make mistakes, they tend to compound mistakes. And the mistakes just get worse and worse because they don't listen to reason. They don't look at logic. They just keep trying to do the same thing over and over and over again because they have a philosophy. And in their defense, when they can get going and make that philosophy work, then it works really well. But the problem with that, thought process is when you have the wrong philosophy and you keep trying to hammer it over and over and over and over again, it's going to ruin you.
Okay. I just still think that when I look at this league and I look how this league's been going the last couple of years and how these quarterbacks has been like flopping around.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you never know, man. Like if a veteran quarterback comes on the market, and this looks like this happening more often in the league, then I can see a veteran quarterback as Lamar Jackson just threw a pretty pass to Marquise Brown. You gotta give that to him. You'll see it. I just think that Pittsburgh could luck into a quarterback.
Man.
I just feel like Pittsburgh could luck into a quarterback and just be right back in the conversation.
Yeah. Well, you see, here's the thing.
I know you say Aaron Rodgers is not going to be the. I can see Aaron Rodgers going to Pittsburgh. I can see him going to Pittsburgh.
I mean,
I can.
Maybe
I can totally see it.
Maybe, but I can totally see it. I don't think it would work. Is the problem, and that's part of the reason why I don't think he's going to go to Pittsburgh, because I think Aaron Rodgers is smart enough to realize it wouldn't work either. Now, I mean, yeah, maybe he would, but if he does, I'm not worried about it because, like, Aaron Rodgers, very good quarterback, but I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be like I don't think Ben Roethlisberger is as off a cliff as he's been playing. I think he's definitely worse than he used to be, but I don't think he's just a completely different human being. I think he's got nothing around him. I mean, he's got talent as far as like skill positions go, but he has got nothing around him as far as like offensive. He's got nothing in front of him blocking. His offensive line is trash. And Aaron Rodgers, when he has a trash offensive line, he does not play particularly well. I broke it down in the Bengals preview for the Bengals-Packers game. When he's under pressure, under pressure. When he's under pressure, Aaron Rodgers is playing like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. And so, I mean, you think it's going to get better in Pittsburgh? It's not. It's going to get worse. And that's part of why I don't think he goes to Pittsburgh, because at the end of the day, he still has final say over where he goes because he has that no trade clause. And the Packers, pretty much have to listen to him as far as where he's going to get traded. I don't see the Steelers being a team that he seriously considers, because the Steelers are ready to go into a massive rebuild, and Aaron Rodgers ain't got time for that. He's too old.
I think
he wants to go.
I think Denver's a possibility too. But you got more than one quarterback out there that's not named Aaron Rodgers, man. There's some other quarterbacks out there.
I think Denver's a significant possibility because they got a lot of the pieces. Now they didn't. I think they're a little overrated, to be honest with you. The Broncos.
There's also another quarterback that can,
But at the same time, I guarantee Aaron Rodgers wins that game, or at least ties it and goes to overtime. Which, by the way, that game would have also gone into overtime, tied 22-22. How weird would that be? But I guarantee you, Aaron Rodgers ties that game for the Broncos instead of Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater throws a pick. Aaron Rodgers throws a touchdown. And Aaron Rodgers probably gets it in the end zone. And so that's the difference. That's the difference between these Broncos being frauds and these Broncos being a legit team. And I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is a terrible quarterback. I just don't think he's a great quarterback. And the Broncos need a great quarterback.
There's another quarterback who We yet to know what his future is. All I'm saying is, we kind of forgot about him because he hasn't been playing, and we barely talk about him on this podcast. But I really think that I don't know if they have the horses to make that move for Watson. Yeah, okay. And we don't really know what's going to happen with him. We don't know what's going on with him. Mm-hmm. Honestly, Davis Mills really don't look that bad. I mean, like, he really doesn't look that bad. He really doesn't look that bad for real.
He's not bad. There was a reason why he was, a second round.
Yeah, he actually don't.
I did my draft prep, and I definitely heard of Davis Mills. Now,
he looks good.
The Texans took him at the top of the draft like they were going and getting a first-round quarterback. But he's not a bad quarterback. He could be another Andy Dalton. He's not going to be another Deshaun Watson.
Now, do I see the Steelers making the trade for Watson? I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did, because Steelers look like a team. To me, sounds like a team that would rather try and get a quarterback like Watson or Aaron Rodgers than try and develop a quarterback from the draft.
Dude, this Ravens defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. Holy shit!
Yeah, but that's all I got to say about it. Steelers, you still suck.
Steelers absolutely still suck. But anyway, guys, we are going on almost 2 hours now.
Good podcast, though.
That's what happens when you have good guests on. So, to an extent, I'll take it. But at the same time, we do got to get going. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Battle of Ohio podcast, guys. Thank you so much for listening. You can find more of what I do at Kyle Phelps 92 on Twitter, Facebook.com/ThePhelps, ATVNetwork.com. Go to the Cincinnati Bengals portion. I also do the power rankings. That's some cool stuff. I also possibly got some other stuff in the works. So I don't know how I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to have time for all this stuff unless I start making some money off of it. But yeah, Thomas, I need to talk to you about that after the show.
All right, awesome.
But we got a lot of stuff in the works going on there. So go check it all out. Please, everybody, go check out our guest, John Sheeran on Cincy Jungle, former colleague of mine.
He's great.
Just overall a fantastic writer and also a fantastic podcaster. He's on the Orange and Black podcast. He's occasionally a guest, actually pretty regularly a guest on Daddy-O McDuke's podcast, formerly on Cincy Jungle, now on the Believe Network. And that's, I believe the podcast is now called the #1 Cincinnati Bengals podcast. And then go check him out on Twitter at John_Sheeran. I think it's just that simple. Thanks for listening, everybody, and I'll leave y'all with the Who Dat.
And go Browns.